Hello, and welcome to the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition Call to Action on the Family Care Act. I am Marcia Telhorster, President of the Coalition. Coalition is a nonpartisan coalition of Bucks County individuals and nonprofit organizations that serve women and families. We educate and advocate together to promote gender equity and economic security for all. A major focus for us is removing barriers to women's full participation in the economy. That's why today's program on paid family leave and the Family Care Act is so important. And I would like to thank our sponsor, AARP Pennsylvania, for their generous support of our program today, as well as the coalition partners and the panelists who are making this program possible. We have a few Zoom hints to share with you. Webinar participants are all muted, but we hope you will participate in other ways. For those who haven't been in a Zoom webinar before, I'd like to give you a brief orientation. If you hover your cursor over the window where you now see me talking, some commands pop up along the bottom of the window. The important ones for today's purposes are Q&A. You would click here to enter questions pertaining to the discussion that you would like our presenters to address. You can put them in any time you think of them, and our moderator, Liz Downing, will direct them to the panelists during the Q&A portion of the program. Also, look at the chat feature. We ask that you use this box to send a message to Kathy Beveridge if you need technical assistance, such as you can't hear the panelists or you want to ask a question and you forgot how. Then use the chat box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Also, we will put some information in the chat that may be of interest to you throughout the presentation. We have emailed in advance the agenda, detailed panelists' bios, and some additional information to you. I hope you got that. To do a little test of the system and where we hope to learn what you think, we are putting up a brief poll for you to take. Let's try it out. All right, please read the questions and respond now. So we have about, I'd say 3/4 of us responding so far. And as you can see from the results, that it appears as if the eligibility criteria to qualify for the benefit is something that you might be most concerned about. If we're going to add this benefit, it might be nice to know who would qualify and when. So hopefully we can answer those questions as we go along. You can see the other responses to the other questions there on the screen. As you can see, I'm sorry, I'm struggling a little technically here. Mostly because I can't get to my screen. There we go. I'm sure many of you watched or are planning to watch 0 Weeks, which is a documentary about how the number of paid weeks provided to US citizens for the purpose of caring for their family, 0 weeks. This film was eye-opening for me to see so many examples of the effects of no paid leave in one film. We shifted our format to a Zoom webinar format for our normally in-person call to action. But we didn't want to miss out on the opportunity to award the Nancy P. Morrill Award to someone who embodies the vision and mission of the coalition and is a leading champion for women and girls. I know we will all learn a lot in the next hour, so it is my pleasure to introduce Nancy Morrill, President Emerita of the coalition, who will present the award this year. Nancy?
Thank you, Marcia. Let's ask Mary Ann is a long-standing common statement within the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition. That's because we have known that Mary Ann Bellasorti has the breadth of experience, the sound judgment, and the always willing gift of sharing her knowledge. Mary Ann is our go-to girl for information about poverty levels, the self-sufficiency standards, the safety net, issues of access to public benefits, economic security for women and their families, pay equity, paid sick leave, domestic workers' rights, and family values at work. You know that with a master's in public policy from the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, that Mary Ann's capabilities are going to be special. Our coalition first began to rely on Mary Ann when we appreciated her work for Pathways PA in developing the self-sufficiency standards, which played a key role in the development of the 10 founding principles of the coalition and our commitment to systemic change 12 years ago, as well as in our ongoing advocacy endeavors today. Pathways PA was one of our coalition's earliest partners. Mary Ann, in her various Pathways PA leadership positions, has been with us throughout the growth of the coalition, often as a speaker, always as a contributor and valued advisor. The coalition's first major initiative was to eliminate the cliff effect in public programs, especially childcare. Mary Ann was with us from the very first meetings with Senator Chuck McElhenney, helping to define that work. And she remained a strategic asset throughout the subsequent years of research, statewide coalition building, the relationship with Women's Way, legislative activity, innumerable meetings, establishment of the website and other communication tools, and giving inspired, vital leadership to this successful, complicated work. We said lots of times, let's ask Mary Ann. Mary Ann has been involved in the fight against the elimination of general assistance, in the adoption of paid sick by the cities of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, and more recently as the driving force behind the current crucial Family Care Act, which when passed will bring paid family and medical leave to all Pennsylvania workers. It is only fitting that the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition's board voted to present this award to Mary Ann in 2020, the 100th anniversary year of the passage of the 19th Amendment. Mary Ann has spent her professional life in pursuit of the mission and values of the coalition. She embodies integrity, collaboration, courage, and the envisioning of a socially just and respectful society with gender equity and economic security for all. It is truly my delight and singular honor to present the Nancy P. Morrill Award to Mary Ann Bellasorti with gratitude and joy. Congratulations, Mary Ann. I believe you have the award physically there with you. Perhaps you'd like to show it. And then, ladies and gentlemen, let's ask Mary Ann to speak.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. I hope you can see the award back here. It is lovely. I really appreciate you getting this award to me so that I would have it in person for this event. And I so truly appreciate being honored in this way. The Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition has been, as you mentioned, one of my partners for so long. And you're an organization that I look to at so many levels. You know, I often think, let me give them a call. So it's nice to know that the feeling is mutual. I do want to take a minute before we go any further just to thank my family for their love and strength and support, especially in what has become the new normal. And that goes not just for my immediate family, my extended family, but also my work family at Pathways PA and at Family Values at Work. And of course, all of you at the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition. You are truly a family of your own and a group that I'm so proud to be part of. It's really hard for me to remember a time when I've been working and not been working with you, and knowing that we've all been together for 12 years, that really shows how long we've known each other and how great this collaboration has been. Nancy and Tam, you are the first people that I remember working with. but over the years, I've gotten to know so many more of you. I'm not going to name everybody because that will take up all of the rest of this, but I do want to thank you all so much. It has meant the world to me to work with you and to receive this award today. Thank you so much just for making me feel welcome in this organization and for supporting so many policies that we need in Pennsylvania and throughout the country. This organization means so much to me and so much to our state, and it has ever since began. Your work has raised the profile of so many important issues, equal pay and the cliff effect, just to name a few. Even when the issue isn't in my personal wheelhouse, I often find it in yours. You don't know how many times I've gone to look up a policy that I know nothing about, only to find out that you all have a position on it already. And of course, over the past few years, we've worked together on, I think, our biggest project, which is paid family and medical leave. And thinking of that work, especially since it's the reason that we are all here today, I wanted to shift our presentation into talking a little bit about what paid family and medical leave means here in Pennsylvania, and sharing a few slides with you all so that everyone on Zoom and on Facebook is able to learn a little bit more about it. So let's see if I can make the magic of Zoom work for us today. All right, it looks like it's up on your screens. So again, I'm going to talk just for a minute about paid leave for PA and the Family Care Act. I want to start off just by mentioning what is kind of obvious to many of us, which is that in the race for paid leave, the United States needs to pick up the pace. We are the only developed nation without some form of paid family leave. For those of you who were able to watch 0 Weeks or who are going to watch it in the future, you'll hear a long conversation about what other countries have when it comes to leave. And it's really just the United States and Papua New Guinea who have no paid family leave available. So, of course, there's a huge impact to that. We have seen it time and time again, and we're seeing it right now as everyone is coming to grips with what it means to have a major pandemic with very little access to paid sick days or paid family leave. I do want to take a minute and just talk about what paid family leave actually is. This is a conversation I have all the time with people in my family, with other advocates, even with legislators who have introduced something that says it's paid family leave or paid this or paid that, but they actually mean something else. So just for purposes of our conversation today, here's what I'm talking about when I mention it. First, there's paid sick days. That's the time that you use if you have the flu. It's the time that you use if you have to take your child to the doctor. It is the time that is just very minimal and you need it to recover. In Pennsylvania, both in Pittsburgh and in Philadelphia, there have been laws passed that ensure that most workers have access to these paid sick days. Unfortunately, these are the only 2 places in the state right now that have those laws. There's also parental leave. Parental leave is the time that you can take when you have a child, adopt a child, or are fostering a child. It's usually up to 1 year. Both parents can take it in many cases. And it's a wonderful opportunity to bond with your child, to breastfeed, and to really be there during the child's first year. Unfortunately, that's as far as it goes. It doesn't cover you if you have a parent who's ill. It doesn't cover you if you have an older child who becomes seriously ill. Parental leave really is just for those first initial period of time after you have that child or adopt the child. And it doesn't go far enough for what we need in today's society. So then we come to paid family and medical leave. And that's leave that you can take, again, to care for yourself or for a loved one who is seriously ill or injured. This is the time that you take when you learn that you've been diagnosed with cancer and you need chemotherapy or other treatment. This is the time you take when your mother breaks a hip and you need to be there with her. It's the time you take when your child is seriously ill and will need weeks to recover. The great thing about this leave is that it is for all of your family. And so even if you are a person who never plans to have a child, there's still someone in your life who you will need to care for. That person may be yourself, it may be a loved one, but this leave will be there for you. Many of you have heard of the FMLA, or the Family Medical Leave Act. And I do want to just spend a minute talking about what the difference is between the FMLA and paid family and medical leave. The first, of course, is right there in the name, paid family medical leave, whereas the FMLA is unpaid. It started in 1993 as a program to make sure that families could take care of themselves and their immediate family, as well as their parents. But it has not expanded since then in order to make it paid leave. And so there are many people who just can't afford to take the time that they need. The FMLA does offer job protection, which means that if you qualify to use the leave, you are usually able to go back to the job that you had or something similar to it. However, it only applies to businesses of 50 people or more. And as I'm sure all of you know, and many of you are probably working in smaller businesses, most businesses in our state and around the country are smaller than 50 people. The FMLA is available for up to 12 weeks, and you can use it for yourself, your parents, your children under 18, and in some military circumstances. So I hope you'll think about this for a second. Think about just who isn't included in that list. One of the groups that are not included there would be your siblings. If your siblings are ill, you can't use the FMLA in order to care for them. You can't use it to take care of your grandparents, and grandparents can't use it to take care of their grandchildren unless there are other circumstances involved. There are so many people in your family who you cannot use the FMLA to care for, even if they are seriously ill. Paid family medical leave could offer a chance to change that. It applies to businesses of all sizes. The time that people can take varies state to state, up to 26 weeks. And there's usually a broader family definition that makes sure that you can take time to care for whoever you consider to be your family. So why do we need paid family medical leave? We need it for a million reasons, and for those of you who are on Zoom, if you want to put some ideas in the chat as well, that would be great. We need it to help keep our aging parents out of nursing homes. So many parents and older adults want to stay in their home as they get older, but they may not be able to do so without some help. Sometimes it's as simple as being there to help them readjust after a fall, or to just get their home better prepared while they're recovering from an illness. Paid family medical leave could help make that happen and make sure that they are able to stay within their home. We need paid family medical leave to care for our children and for our family members, of course. We need it to help small businesses compete. Larger businesses can afford to take the time or to spend the money on paid family leave. Smaller businesses usually can't. This is a big amount of money for them, but if we have a program within our state or at the federal level, that means that they're able to compete for workers at the same rate as larger businesses. Of course, it can help keep talented workers in Pennsylvania. Many of the states around us are passing paid family medical leave laws. In fact, I was teaching a class last night on Zoom, and as we talked more about paid family leave, one of the class members said it made her want to move to New Jersey because this is something that they have and we do not. Finally, of course, this is the right thing to do. This is something that we need for all of our families, and we need it yesterday, but if we can't get it then, as soon as possible. This is not a new concept. Paid family medical leave has passed now in 8 states and Washington, D.C. Over 33 million people have been covered by these laws, starting with California in 2002 and up to Oregon in 2019. And you can see nearby New Jersey, New York, D.C., Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, lots of places around us are getting this policy. And the law that we are looking at is based on what we've learned from these states. In Pennsylvania, the Family Care Act, which is legislation that was introduced to provide paid family and medical leave, will provide up to 20 weeks of leave for workers to take care of themselves and up to 12 weeks for them to care for their loved ones. The cost is low. It's only 59 cents for every $100 you earn. I'll say that again, 59 cents for every $100 you earn. It is less than pennies on the dollar. And the way that this bill is written, it will protect workers from losing their job if they take the time, and it will protect them from retaliation. I want to finish up just by answering a few of the frequently asked questions around this law. The first of them is, what size businesses are going to participate in it? And the answer is all of them. The same is true for what types of workers. Again, all workers will be participating in this. Self-employed workers will have the opportunity to opt into the program, but it will be there for everyone to take part in. And finally, what would it mean to have paid family and medical leave in Pennsylvania right now as we deal with COVID-19? This is a question that we're going to continue looking at over the next few months, but I can tell you what's happening in the states that already have passed these laws. Right now, every state that has paid family medical leave has already updated their regulations to show how people can use it if they are seriously ill with COVID-19 or if they're caring for an ill loved one. I think we could expect that here in Pennsylvania if we had this law in place. And it could make a big difference for our economy, for your pocketbook, for everything that we're dealing with right now, in order to have some backup when it comes to needing to take time away from work. So I want to leave it here and say that if anyone is interested in learning more, they should be able to text FAMILY to 52886. Be happy to take questions later on. But for right now, I want to stop the screen share so I can turn it over to Representative Wendy Thomas for her remarks. Representative Thomas is a longtime Bucks County resident who now serves as representative of the 178th Legislative District. She's one of the lead co-sponsors of our paid family and medical leave legislation and one of our most outspoken voices on the topic. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, and congratulations, Marianne. Well deserved. So I just wanted to let everybody on the phone, as one of the prime sponsors, let you kind of know where the bill is. It's House Bill 1739, and we've done quite a bit of outreach to other legislators. I just looked it up, and we have 47 co-sponsors. And in case you don't know what that means somebody's looked at the bill, another legislator, and said, you know, I think this is a good bill, I support this idea. So there's 203 of us in the House. So we, you know, to win the vote, you have to have 102 people vote for it. But the more co-sponsors we get, the more we can get the committee to run the bill. I have reached out to the committee chair and asked him to consider doing a hearing. As my main co-sponsor, Representative Dan Miller, has also done that. We are both advocating all the time. I think we got pushed back a little bit with this pandemic in our efforts. In fact, I am still in Harrisburg. Today's our last day of session for this week. I literally ran off the floor. We just ended 7 o'clock and came to do this. But we're beginning to look forward, and this couldn't be more relevant. So, you know, here we are in a health crisis. I just spoke on the floor today about the sad loss of some of our seniors. And as we reopen and go back to work and your parent gets sick, and this is the story I talk about frequently, you know, you can plan for some life events, but you can't plan for a parent who gets ill and you need to take that time. So you have no financial backup, you know, when that happens. And these unexpected life events that happen to your family give you the ability, you know, to sustain yourself while you're caring for a family member. So I'm a huge supporter. It makes a huge difference if you talk to your legislator. It really, really does. You know, so if you're a constituent somewhere and you want to ask your legislator, are they a co-sponsor, or ask them to be a co-sponsor on the bill, that would be great. It makes a big difference. We all see the volume of email and things that you write to us as legislators. They're very important to us. So your voice definitely makes a difference. I encourage you, all to do that. And I always end my conversations about this bill with, in Pennsylvania, we need to make sure families come first. And I feel that way strongly. So I'm going to stay on for a few minutes, but unfortunately, I have a few other calls to make in a moment. So if there's anything else you guys would like me to do, just let me know. Thank you, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to be on.
Thank you so much, and thank you for rushing in to be here right away. We truly appreciate it. I want to turn now to one of our other bill sponsors, Senator Maria Collett, who represents the 12th Senatorial District, has been also a great champion of paid family medical leave. Unfortunately, I don't think that she's been able to join us tonight, but she was able to send a video, which we are about to queue up.
Hi everyone, it's Senator Maria Collett. I'm sorry I can't be on the call with you this evening, but I'm excited to share an update and speak a little bit about the inspiration behind this piece of legislation. I'm proud to be a prime sponsor on the Pennsylvania Family Care Act, SB 580, in the state Senate, and I'm glad to have colleagues like Representative Wendy Thomas leading the way in the House. I became involved with this effort after meeting some constituents whose infant daughter had recently passed away due to a congenital heart defect. These hardworking parents struggled to make ends meet while spending months on end in the hospital, and they wanted me to advocate for paid leave so other families can spend time caring for their loved ones without the added stressors of financial hardship. For those of you who have heard me share this story before, I'm happy to report to all of you that Jackie and Chris recently welcomed a healthy baby boy. In January of this year, we were fortunate to have a hearing on the bill in the Senate Labor and Industry Committee. We heard directly from advocates, businesses, and the Department of Labor and Industry about the impact this legislation will have in Pennsylvania. We were encouraged the Department of Labor and Industry is looking into how they implement this program, an important indicator that the administration wants to collaborate and develop a policy that will be successful when it passes the General Assembly. Since then, we've heard from passionate advocates like yourselves who need like this to provide them security during uncertain times of health, like we find ourselves in now. This crisis has led to so much more discussion about the need for paid family leave, and we're hopeful it will help. Just think about how our current situation could be different if we have this program already in place. This could benefit the small business owners who know their employees should stay but can't afford to continue to pay them. It would provide support for frontline workers who need to take time to care for themselves or a sick family member. We know that the Family Care Act would be a game changer for Pennsylvanians moving forward. We need all of your help to move this bill forward. In the Senate, that means contact our law and Senators Collett and Scott who control which bills get brought up for a vote. Getting their buy-in and endorsement is critical to the next steps of the legislative process. Let them know that this bill, as good as it is for employees, is also a great help for the small businesses who want to reopen and recover here in Pennsylvania to retain employees and stay competitive with big business. Thank you, Tam, and everyone at the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition for your continued advocacy for paid leave and for so many other important issues. I'm glad the insight to stay healthy, everyone.
Unfortunately, Senators Collett audio, can everybody hear me? Yeah, unfortunately, I think there was some distortion on Senators Collett's audio, but we appreciate her sending it along and hopefully we can hear her later on. Thanks again to all of you for joining us for this important conversation. I'm Liz Downing, a Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition board member and a moderator for this evening. Now I'd like to welcome our panelists. In addition to Marianne and our legislators, we have Kristen Farry, who's Vice President of Policy and Government Relations at Wood Services, Kathy Bennett, who is the Director of the Bucks County Area Agency on Aging, and Jim Bishop, CEO of Cornerstone Clubs. We'll hear from each of them regarding their perspective on the Family Care Act. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Kristen. Kristen Farry serves as the Vice President of Policy and Government Relations at Wood Services. In this capacity, Ms. Farry is responsible for identifying policy and funding challenges impacting clients and families, coordinating policy and education activities with Wood Service and its affiliates, and leveraging strategic partnerships to ensure the advocacy efforts are effective in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and Washington. Kristen?
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Thanks so much to the Coalition for the opportunity to speak this evening, and thank you for that introduction. As Liz mentioned, my name is Kristen, and I am with Wood Services, which for anybody who does not know, Wood Services is a large human services provider based in Langhorne, Pennsylvania in the county. And we primarily provide services to people with autism and intellectual disabilities, but we also do some behavioral health work, in-home supports, you know, really whatever folks may need in the human services space. So I'd like to speak to you a little bit from the employer perspective, and I think you know, this issue is especially near and dear to our heart at Woods because the nature of our business is caregiving, right? So the majority of our employees, and we have about 2,000 at our Langhorne location, and we have 6,000 throughout the network of all of our affiliate organizations that we support as well. And the majority of those employees are direct caregivers. They are the folks that are directly hands-on giving services and caring for our children and adults with special needs. So that can mean anything from medication administration, bathing, feeding, educating, toileting, whatever that particular individual may need. So we are a nonprofit organization. And so despite our size, you know, we're not always able to compete with other employers of similar size who can offer things like paid family leave benefits and paid FMLA. So as great as our workforce is and as much as we want to support them, it's difficult for us as an employer to offer these things. So we were really excited about, you know, Representative Thomas and Senator Collett's leadership being from the county on this issue, because it's something that we think would really benefit, in particular, our workforce, because they are often also a lower income workforce. And again, as the employer, we're able to do some things to try to alleviate those stresses and offer various incentives. But this is not one that we've been able to. So we think that, you know, offering an opportunity for any of our employees who need to take a leave of absence to support a family member, something like that, they may not have a big safety net or a big savings already in place. So an opportunity to recoup a little bit of money, you know, while you need to make those leaves would be something that's really important and near and dear to our hearts. So I think, you know, it's something that's important to us all the time, but especially during this pandemic, we have had a lot of employees whose lives have been impacted by serious illness, either you know, them contracting COVID-19 or needing to stay home because family members have contracted it, or needing to stay home because of childcare issues, which is kind of a whole other issue. But really, those have been the largest challenges that we've seen firsthand created by the pandemic. And we do think that the creation of a program like the one that the Family Care Act would create in Pennsylvania would really be a big benefit to all employers. We think, you know, a lot of the aid that has been coming down from the federal government and the CARES bill and things like that has not applied to employers with more than 500 employees. So, you know, some of those additional benefits, some of the FMLA extensions and additions, our employees still haven't been able to utilize. So we've had a lot of phone calls to HR. So, you know, anecdotally, I can say that, you know, something like the creation of this program would be great for a number of our employees. And we feel and share their frustration that they haven't been able to utilize some more of that during this time. So I'm going to read a question that just came in live because while I'm talking, somebody is asking what we do now when they have a family need. You know, if it is a need that falls under FMLA, which is often not the case because I know the stipulations are quite high regarding illness and disability, the employee is able to utilize FMLA. And as Marianne explained really well at the beginning of this webinar, that's a great program. It guarantees that your job will still be in place, but you know, it is not a paid program. So if the situation that the employee is experiencing falls under existing FMLA, they're able to utilize that for up to 12 weeks at Woods. Other than that, what we do offer short-term disability insurance, but obviously that's an opt-in that our employees have to choose to purchase and utilize and pay in with the premiums. But again, you know, short-term disability usually just applies to yourself and not being able to work, not to caring for loved ones. So what our employees do is, you know, either have to utilize vacation time or, you know, not be able to be that primary caregiver. There really is not a great option. So they're either missing out on work, whether through burning their leave or, you know, working out some other type of unpaid leave or sabbatical with us. So we really think that this program could help there. And, you know, on the flip side, we think that the program could also support the families of a lot of the clients we serve. That's the last thing I just wanted to touch on before I turn it over, because obviously many of the people that we care for are medically vulnerable and have a lot of different diagnoses. We have a lot of folks with seizure disorders. We have a lot of folks that require feeding tubes, breathing apparatuses. So they're very vulnerable and they're very likely to have sustained periods of illness. So on the flip side, I think many of our families could benefit from this because if your loved one falls ill and needs to leave their program at Woods to go spend time at the hospital or go spend time, get more intense medical needs, you know, the family member then would likely have to leave a job as well to help supply that additional support. So, you know, when Marianne was talking about the relationships that are and are not covered in FMLA, that really struck me as well, because we have a lot of siblings who, you know, their parents have become either elderly and not able to care for their loved one with special needs anymore, or, you know, unfortunately they have passed away. So siblings are often the legal guardian for the people that we serve at Woods. And, you know, currently that's not covered for a number of situations as well. So, you know, we're proud to have the opportunity to speak about the importance to this bill because we are, as I mentioned, a large employer in the county, and we want to lend our voice to doing everything we can to support our employees, but, you know, everyone in the county and the Commonwealth as well. So thank you again so much, Representative Thomas and Senator Collett, for your work on this important issue. You know, we're going to continue to help you in any way we can. And thank you so much to the Coalition for this forum and this opportunity to continue raising awareness and increasing the grassroots support for this important bill.
Yeah, thank you very much for adding to the conversation, Kristen. And I'm sure everyone watching this will have questions for you as we move ahead. Next, I would like to tell you about Jim Bishop. Jim is the CEO of Cornerstone Clubs and a native of Bucks County who opened his first site in 1995. He opened with one guiding focus: community. According to him, health and fitness is rarely an individual endeavor. It's through the supportive relationships between his staff and club members that the members' lives become healthier and happier. He now has multiple facilities and a staff of over 300. His business is a reflection of caring and commitment for all who are associated with the Cornerstone family. Jim?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I have to say, I'm in awe with learning more about this program. And I quite honestly want to echo everyone who come before me, and particularly Kristen's, that we are in a situation, particularly now, that we can really take advantage of looking at this particular opportunity that we have and realize the benefits of seeing this bill go through. Now is a perfect situation where we are in, where, as Liz mentioned, we're 25 years in the making, and we started with 17 employees and we grew up to over 300. We're committed to the Central Bucks area, and my commitment is our employees, because we can't have a good organization without making our employees, you know, our first priority. And we found over the years that that's really worked for us. The culture that we've developed has not only been family oriented, but very heartfelt. And the times that we're going through right now is a perfect example to realize that by seeing this particular bill go through, it puts one more tool in our toolbox to craft to be able to differentiate ourselves with small and mid-sized businesses, because we truly, truly are committed to providing every opportunity we can to not only make our community safe and better immune with the situation, but as importantly, our employees. I could take hours and explain to you over the years the situations that have taken place in our organization where healthcare was not quite enough. And to be able to see the individuals go through what they've gone through and still be 100% committed to our organization because they know that we're in this together and they're part of something bigger than themselves. But when you see certain individuals have devastating situations, whether they be planned with a pregnancy or as importantly, a devastating situation where they have to care for themselves or others, and you realize that you can only help so much other than offer them the current FMLA to guarantee that they have the job back when they come back, it's just not enough. And it's our hope that we can relieve the stress levels of our employees so they can disseminate that comfort to our members and community. And I can't say enough as to what we are willing to do to see this bill go through. And I want to express my compliments to your organization, the Advocacy Coalition, to see this through. And as I said, I could go on and give you individual examples, but the bottom line is this is something that we truly need, and it does put us all on a level playing field. And I would be proud to be able to support this in any way. And I would be even more proud to be able to offer it to my employees so that they can feel a sense of comfort when it goes beyond just having health care. And when these unexpected situations come up, we would be in a very good situation to be supportive of them. Right now is a perfect example. We, as all businesses, are going through so many unexpected situations. And the 300 employees that we have had, we've applied for every single loan. Our finance team has been absolutely phenomenal. They've been on top of it. And we've been able to capitalize on everything that we could with the size of our organization. But right now we're in a situation where, unfortunately, we had to put a number of employees back on furlough, even though we were able to experience the PPP loan. And that happened just recently, as of today, quite honestly. And my next concern for my team is what happens when they want to come back and they're in a situation that are in need of FMLA. They want to come back, but they quite honestly can't afford it. And we want to do everything we possibly can, but as with any business, there's a line that has to be drawn so that you can't take care of just immediate benefits because you want to be sustainable so that everyone can come back and enjoy your workplace as a team for many years to come. So I speak for myself, and I believe many other businesses that would support this in the hopes of it moving forward. And I really, really do see it as a win-win. And you have my vote, and I'm more than open to support it personally in any way. And I know that when the bill does get passed, we will support it internally as well, so that our employees can benefit from it.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. The voices of businessmen like you are very important. Our business community is vital to getting this bill passed, and we appreciate
you have my support.
Thank you. Next, I would like to tell you about Kathy Bennett. Kathy Bennett has been the director of the Bucks County Area on Aging since 2017. She has a master's in social work from the University of Pittsburgh with a certification in gerontology and is a licensed social worker. Prior to working for the Area Agency on Aging, Kathy worked at Network of Victim Assistance as deputy director for 21 years, where she helped create the Bucks County Crimes Against Older Adults Task Force and led projects that helped in investigations and services to victims of elder abuse. Okay, Kathy?
Good evening. Thank you so much for letting me be part of the panel. I really do appreciate it and fully support this legislation, both personally and professionally. So just to give you a little bit of a taste or an understanding of what it is with regards to caregivers of seniors and what they're dealing with, family members, Let me just give you some information first. 30% of the US population cares for an older adult or someone with a disability in our country. There's a recent a study, actually it just came out today through the National Alliance for Caregiving and the AARP, that talks about the fact that they did a study back in 2015, and then they did a survey just now that they've gotten the results to show the difference between 2015 and 2020. And they found that during that 5-year time, 9.5 million more caregivers are taking care of a senior than was taking care of someone in 2015. They also found out that those caregivers, when they asked them about how are they doing financially and how is their health, found that they were in worse health and they had more financial concerns than they did 5 years ago when they were surveying caregivers. They also found that there are more Gen X and millennials who are caring for caregivers than ever before. And that says something about, again, our workforce and who is out there and who is trying to be of assistance to their elder relatives. For the most part, families are a major provider of long-term care for older adults, and the value of unpaid caregiving in our country is $522 billion annually. It's not going to be a surprise to you that 90% of the 65 plus population wants to age in place as long as possible, but it's very much likely that they're going to need help at some point or another. And right now, the average age of a family caregiver is 48 years old. And so if you think about that age again, and when I was talking about Gen Xers and millennials, again, they are also taking care of their family and younger children as they're growing up. I wanted to take a second. I know that we've talked before about how it is can be a very difficult situation to work full time and to also take care of an older relative that you're trying to take care of. In the best of times, it's horrible and difficult. But in today's world with COVID, I wanted to spend a second just giving you a sense of what is happening now and the fact that it is so much more difficult. And this isn't something that's going to go back to the old way that things were. Even with a new normal, things are going to be difficult. So one of the challenges is that there is overall a lack of caregivers that are being hired by organizations who do go out and provide services in someone's home. There's a myriad of reasons why it's a difficult situation to get home health aides and other persons to provide personal care. But generally, it has a lot to do with the fact that there is not a large income for those individuals. And they usually like to, if they're able to work, like if they're a certified nurse assistant, they will work at a nursing facility as opposed to in a home because it's a much more stable situation to be working in. So in the best of times, there's a lack of caregivers out there. And right now, even during COVID, there's more so because either they themselves have become ill or they're caring for a family member or they have fears about going out and caring for others. The other situation that we're dealing with right now is that we have seniors and family members who are afraid to let others into their home, to let somebody from the outside of their family into their home to offer help. And so they are trying to make that choice of saying, I'd rather care for my family member at home than go to work because I can't allow somebody from the outside to come in and help my family member and be concerned about that caregiving duty. Family members are also afraid of spreading the virus if they do go back to work. And so there's a concern for caregivers about being at home and then going into work and then coming back home again. And what is it that I'm going to be bringing back with me when I come home? Is it going to be a more vulnerable situation? I just want to give you a couple of examples. And one of them is actually from where I currently work, in that when COVID, when the state was asked to shut down, our organization, like most of the county, switched to working remotely. And so I have remote workers, and I have to say about 95% of my staff are able to do their work remotely. One of those individuals has right about the time that this happened, she and her husband have young children, and they, of course, are not going to school. But during this, her mother-in-law, who was caring for the father-in-law who had been ill for many years, died suddenly. So then this family was in a situation where the father-in-law, who had been ill and in need of services and assistance during the day, the husband left to go take care of him. So now this individual is left taking care of her children, and the husband is taking care of his father. And at this point, to be able to come back and work would be so difficult for this family. And I'm really sorry to say that just recently the father-in-law passed away. And so it's a very difficult situation for this family. But they really had to, in the last couple of weeks, grapple with how are we going to handle this? Places are starting to open up for employers, asking people to come back. What can I do in order to take care of my children and take care of my senior relative as well? And we're hearing that story time and time again from individuals who are really worried about how am I going to handle the current situation with going back to work when there is nothing that I can do other than maybe take vacation or sick time in order to take care of, excuse me, our family leave in order to take care of my older family member, and that may not be eligible for them. So for seniors, it really is quite a difficult situation. It's something that I totally agree with what everyone has said. This legislation would help not only our families, it helps our society, and it's going to help our businesses as well. And so thank you for this opportunity to raise awareness and to encourage others to be supportive of this legislation.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kathy, for adding your voice to this. Your perspective is a unique one that we all need to hear. At this point, I'd like to call your attention to our Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. If you have anything you would like to ask our participants, please type your question into that space and indicate if there's a particular person you would like to respond. While some of you are typing in your questions, we'll be taking our second poll. So please take a minute to look at the second poll, and we will get our results shortly. So take a few minutes to respond to the second poll and or to type in questions for our panelists. If we look at the results of our poll, it looks like the majority of us know people and or personally could have benefited from a paid family leave program. So it looks like, you know, almost 10%, 9% of people have benefited in the last month, 23 in the last year, and about half of us in the last 5 years. So it sounds like most of us, you know, agree at the benefit of these sorts of programs. Thank you. At least it gives us a good idea of where people are in terms of viewing this. All right, so let's take a look at some of the questions that are in our Q&A box. Okay. All right. I have a question, and I'm not sure who it would be best sent to. If my husband and I work for the same employer, do we each have to pay and have our own coverage? Who in our panel would like to address that question?
Hi, it's Marianne. I think that, yeah, that this one would be a good one for me.
Thank you.
Sure. So if you and your husband work in the same company, sorry, if you and your husband work for the same employer, is that the question we have right here?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my question just moved around on me all of a sudden.
Yeah,
so if you and your husband work for the same employer, you do both have to pay separately, and you will both have your own coverage. The way that this works is that you would both have a small amount of money taken out of your payroll and put into the fund for paid family medical leave. And then if you needed the time, you would be able to take that time. And anyone who takes time through the program would need some kind of certification showing that, you know, this time is necessary, either from a doctor or a medical professional showing the need.
Well, thank you. Thank you. We now have a question from Connie Borachevsky asking, what impact will this program have on the state budget? I'm not sure if we have any of our legislators available. I think they've both gone, but does anyone feel qualified to answer that one?
This is Mary Ann again. It's probably another me question. So the way that this program is set up, it would in fact pay for itself. So in the other states so far that have passed this legislation, the programs have paid for themselves through the payroll deductions. That's what we expect here in Pennsylvania as well. The cost right now is based on a cost-benefit analysis that was done when we did research with the Department of Labor and Industry a few years back. We would continue, and I'm sure the department would continue to do that research to make sure that this is budget neutral for the Commonwealth.
Great, thank you. And I have a question here for Kathy from an anonymous attendee. What do people do who can't get caregivers and have to work?
That's a great question. So there are various options for providing assistance. During non-COVID times, there's such thing as adult daycare. There are also services that we provide through the Area Agency on Aging that can provide with some assistance in the home. We do have a caregiver support program that provides a bit of funding to help offset costs of hiring someone privately to assist you. And you can always contact us at our office at the Bucks County Area Agency on Aging to get more information. It is a reimbursable program though, so it's not something you have to spend the money up front and then get reimbursed for it. But it is definitely a challenge, and in today's world, it is even more so a challenge. But we are always happy to talk to anyone that has a concern like this and see if we can problem solve for them personally.
Thank you. Yeah, I would like to wind up our Q&A by inviting Angela Forshaw, who is the State Manager of Community Outreach for AARP Pennsylvania, our sponsor this evening, to wind up our Q&A session. Angela, do you have a question for us?
I do. Thank you so much. We are just so very thankful for all the great work that is being done, and we know that we have so much to do. But before I leave my question, I just wanted to definitely say that ARP definitely supports legislation that is in favor of the paid family leave. We know that so many families will be able to better handle their financial difficulties with such legislation being passed. And a question that I have is, how close are we to getting this legislation passed in Pennsylvania? I know that our state rep did mention a House bill, but what's the status of all legislation on the table?
Thank you for the question. This is Mary Ann. I can take that one. So we were able to have a hearing on this legislation in the Senate Labor and Industry Committee back in January. We all thought that that hearing went very well. There were a lot of questions raised, but also a lot of legislators who were really interested in what we had to say, the other people who were testifying what they had to say. Of course, everything with COVID has changed the landscape dramatically. So we're still working right now to connect with our senators, to connect with our House members. And in fact, during the pandemic, there have been more co-sponsors signing on to the legislation, which has been great. We encourage everybody to please reach out to their legislators if they support this, the Family Care Act. It is Senate Bill 580 and House Bill 1739. You can find out more information about it at familycareact.com, including some ways to get in touch with your legislators.
Great, thank you. We do have time for one or two more questions. An anonymous attendee says, I'm curious as to what the objections are among legislators to the passage of this act.
Mary Ann.
I hate to keep hogging this, so if anyone else wants to jump in. But if not, I'll say that, there are a lot of questions about this legislation because for a lot of people it is very new. Even though this has passed in 9 states and it's being considered in many others, until you really hear about it and think about it, you just need to learn more, honestly. And that's what we found with a number of the legislators. When we sit down and talk to them, if they have real concerns, they are often things that we can talk through and can help them see how it's been done in other states, what we anticipate to happen here. There are always going to be some people who don't want legislation like this in any state. And I think what we're learning more and more, again, in this pandemic is that we need basic protections for our workers, including paid family leave, including paid sick days, including access to health care, and so much more. And hopefully our legislators will continue to see that and will continue to look at this, this piece of legislation and move forward on it.
Exactly. And I have one more question from Jean Ladden, which is directly the reason for this webinar this evening and for many of us to be here is, what can I do to help this bill pass? I think that's why we're all here, I hope.
Yeah. Well, I can take that because I'm going to be talking about that next.
Yes, you are. And I want to thank all of our participants for their responses. And at this point, I would like to introduce Tam St. Clair, President Emerita and Chair of the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition Issue Cabinet and a passionate advocate of the Family Care Act. Tam?
Thank you, Liz. It's clear that throughout our life, we are caregivers as parents and daughters and spouses and sons and daughters and cousins and caregivers to close friends who are like family. Families take care of family no matter the form, and it is the foundation of our community and civil society. The profound impact of COVID-19 has highlighted that we need to elevate the economic needs of the families who are the central caregivers. Families need to be prioritized, supported, and valued for a strong, flourishing community. When those expected and unexpected major disruptions in our lives happen, and when we have to have access to paid family leave, it is critical for the family's economic stability. By passing the Family Care Act, which is again HB 1739 and SB 580, the bipartisan bills in the Pennsylvania House and Senate, our elected officials would go beyond the lip service and actually demonstrate that our Commonwealth priorities support and values working families. No one should be faced with the agonizing choice between being good caregivers for those we love and risk losing our jobs and financial security when we carry out that important caregiving role. We must be pro-family to be a strong state where people want to come and work and live. It is the right thing to do. So tonight you have heard all about the Family Care Act from 2 of our champion legislators and from our experts and panels. And you have had your questions about the Family Care Act answered. You are armed, and the facts will be getting, we will be getting materials highlighting the need for the insurance program funded by and for families. Next, our clarity and unity around this legislation is critical. Now we call on you to action to get this bill passed into law. As Pennsylvanians and constituents, you carry the power through your voice and vote to change public policy for the good of Pennsylvania's working families. So how do you do that? First, we need you to call key Pennsylvania legislators who control what bills move forward. Those officials are the House and Senate Labor and Industry Committees majority and minority chairs and Speaker of the House, Mike Turzai, and Leader of the Senate, Joe Scarnati. If they only get a couple or 10 calls, it won't really have a big impact. However, over 100 people registered for this webinar tonight. And if each of you called or emailed those 6 people, plus your own representatives and senator, now that is a statement they will stand up and take notice of. Tomorrow you'll receive an email with all the information you need to make those contacts. Or if you are watching this on Facebook, you can download the documents from our website at www.bcwac.org. Don't delay. Remember, elected officials are put in office to work for you. We must let them know what we actually want them to do. Be respectful, but always insist that the Family Care Act is vitally important to you and your family. What do you say? You give your name and say, I am a Pennsylvanian, I vote, and I want you to pass the Family Care Act so that all working people in this Commonwealth have paid family leave insurance. It strengthens family, helps businesses, and supports the Commonwealth's workforce. It is the right and urgent thing to do before the next pandemic hits or crisis hits my family. Second thing you can do, share your story. When you talk about your own personal story, it is powerful. Senator Collett, and while you couldn't hear all of her story tonight because of the technical difficulties, and the stories on the 0 weeks on Amazon Prime are examples of powerful stories of people whose lives could have been changed if they had access to the Family Care Act. It doesn't have to be long, just tell it from your heart. Share your stories with us so that we can relay it to others and to link a real person's experience to the importance of passing the Family Care Act. You can send your story to me through the email at info@bcwac.org, and we will collect those stories and share them with legislators. Third, join and financially support the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition if you aren't already a partner. The larger our voice, the more clout we have with elected officials. It is easy to join and contribute through our website, again, at www.bcwac.org. You can also join the statewide Family Care Campaign Coalition, in which our coalition works and coordinates closely. Fourth, share the information you've heard today with your friends and family, your book club, your bridge club, your garden club, your support group, your classmates, your exercise group. Share with everyone you know to build momentum. Urge them to watch the recording of this webinar on our Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition Facebook page. Watch the movie 0 Weeks. Download the one-pagers from our website and share, share, share. Give everyone a copy of the action steps you will get and can download from our website, and ask them to call the Pennsylvania House and Senate leaders and the chairs of the labor and industry committees. And fifth, but not least, talk with your employer and fellow employees about the opportunity that we have now in Pennsylvania to pass this incredibly important bill. Urge them to join with Jim Bishop and our panelists today to learn more about the bill and share with their business networks the information about the Family Care Act. This is your call to action, your chance to unite with everyone in this webinar and others across the state to use the power of your voice to make a difference. Let's commit to relentlessly insist and persist with our advocacy until the governor signs the Family Care Act into law. Thank you to our panelists and our champion legislators, Senator Collett and Representative Thomas and Liz Downing, our moderator tonight, to Kathy Beveridge and Becky Lowe Conroy, our two incredible tech people behind the scenes, to Angela Forshaw and AARP of Pennsylvania for your sponsorship and question tonight, to the Coalition's Caregiving Committee led by Joanne Klein, to the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition Board led by Marcia Telthorser, and to each of you who tuned in to this webinar to be informed advocates for the Family Care Act. Please fill out the survey so we can continue to improve and look for more information coming your way from the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Coalition. Thank you for participating and make your voice heard. Be safe and have a good evening.